I put Buddha on my Christmas tree. Yes, I put Buddha where an angel should be. Now, if I was a stickler for historical accuracy, I should put Buddha under my Christmas tree, for under the Bodhi tree he became enlightened, and December 8th is Bodhi Day. But I put Buddha atop my enlightened Christmas tree as a not-so-subtle reminder to me to stop the raving, craving of the season and listen to the voice of reason. Buddha said to his disciples, birth is stressful, aging is stressful, death is stressful. Sorrow, lamentations, pain, distress, and despair are stressful. Association with what is not loved is stressful. Separation from what is loved is stressful. And the one particularly for the Christmas season, not getting what is wanted is stressful. And what is the cause by which stress comes into play? Craving is the cause by which stress comes into play. And what is the diversity in stress? Well, there is major stress and minor stress, slowly fading and quickly fading. This is called the diversity in stress. And what is the result of stress? There are some cases in which a person, overcome with pain, his mind exhausted, grieves and mourns, laments and beats his breast and becomes bewildered. Or one overcome with pain, his mind exhausted, comes to search outside. Who knows a way to stop this pain? I tell you, monks, that stress results in either bewilderment or search. This is called the result of stress. And what is the cessation of stress? From the cessation of craving is the cessation of stress. And just this noble eightfold path, right view, right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, is the path of practice leading to the cessation of stress. This is the outline of the Four Noble Truths, and the last truth being the Eightfold Path found in the writings of the Pali Canon. Siddhartha Gautama was born in Nepal 536 years before the Common Era. He was a prince, disturbed by how much wealth he had and how little others had. So he renounced his wealth and became an ascetic, but soon found that fasting was self-serving as well. Both self-indulgence of his youth and the self-mortification of his asceticism were both selfish. One day he sat meditating under a tree, and he discovered the middle path between greed and self-sacrifice. Because of this awakening, he became known as the Buddha, or Enlightened One. He spent the rest of his life teaching disciples, and his words were passed down by oral tradition until they were transcribed in Sri Lanka in the centuries after his death. These books of his words are known as the Pali Canon, Pali being the language which the Buddha spoke. Buddhism traveled across the world in its early centuries. It spread north through China, where it mingled with Chinese religion, forming the Mahayana, or Great Wheel school of Buddhism. Another school, based on the words of Buddha, traveled south through India to Sri Lanka, and this form was called Theravada. Thera meaning elders, and Vada meaning teaching. Thus it means the teaching of the elders. Within the first 200 years, it spread as far as Greece and Egypt. I read this. It is not clear how much these interactions may have been influential, but some authors have commented that there's some level of similarity between Hellenist thought and Buddhism, and may have started in Hellenic lands at this time. They've pointed to the presence of Buddhist communities in the Hellenistic world around that period, in particular in Alexandria, which was mentioned by Clement of Alexandria, the pre-Christian monastic order of Therapeutae, possibly a deformation of Theravada. Thera meaning the elders, and pute may be a precursor to the Latin putare, to reckon or to think. So it's still literally the teaching of the Thera. Our word therapeutic comes from this root. So when your therapist tells you to reduce stress, they may be giving you teachings of the elders. The rise of Christianity erased Buddhism from the Mediterranean, and the rise of Islam erased it from the Middle East to the Himalayas. From the Himalayas northward, it traveled into Mahayana and the Tibetan forms, and it flourished. And a few weeks ago, we had Tibetan Buddhists here at a special program, and they performed a puja, or prayer, to a Chinese goddess. Now, the original teachings of the Buddhists were humanistic without reliance on God. In fact, in some of his teachings, the Buddha says the gods are still caught up in the same us and them battle of not being clear about who they are and striving. Because if you read Hindu mythology, there's lots of battles and striving, just like in Greek mythology. And it says, don't look to the gods because they're caught up in the same stuff that all us humans are caught up in. And as Buddhism moved through India, it kind of just got absorbed by Hinduism, because Hinduism just kind of, some strange, just added Buddha as another avatar, another god who had come down to earth. But in a little island off the coast of India, Sri Lanka, Theravada Buddhism found its home, and then migrated to Southeast Asia in about the 11th century. So now Myanmar or Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, and Laos are predominantly Theravada Buddhists. I've been told by people who have visited this country that what one sees are monks going around the street with their bowls and begging. These monks meditate and study the Pali Canon. Some are monks for life, trying to reach nirvana or freedom from desire in this life. But there are also lay people who choose to become monks for shorter periods of time, to earn merit so they may receive nirvana in a future life. And most lay people earn merit by supporting the begging monks and the temples and reciting passages from the Pali Canon. As Westerners and Unitarian Universalists, it may be difficult for us to enter fully into the rituals of another tradition. The Buddhist tradition just assumes reincarnation, and it's some of us believe, and it's a possibility, but it's something that's not common to the way Westerners think. But I believe that the acts of compassion and the words of the Buddha bring merit to our lives in the present day. This Christmas season gives us many opportunities for the charity. We have the Religious Order of the Salvation Army begging at every street corner. And we also have our reasons for giving and not giving to different charities because we don't know where the money always goes, and we get caught up in all those controversies. But Christmas also just distracts us with this bombardment of advertising, of buy, and all these parties you have to attend and all these things. It's just a whirlwind to inoculate us against the grasping greed of gifts and the constant craving of chocolate and cookies. Let us listen to these words of the Buddha. When you see this on email, you'll see which parts of the canon it's from, but I cannot pronounce any of these words. They're all 9-syllable words, but the translations I can read. Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought. If with an impure mind a person speaks or acts, suffering follows like the wheel that follows the foot of an ox. Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought. If a pure mind person speaks or acts, happiness follows like a never-departing shadow. He abused me. He struck me. He overpowered me. He robbed me. Those who harbor such thoughts do not still their hatred. He abused me. He struck me. He overpowered me. He robbed me. Those who do not harbor such thoughts still their hatred. Hatred is never appeased by hatred in this world. By non-hatred alone is hatred appeased. This is the law eternal. There are those who do not realize that one day we all must die. But those who do realize this settle their quarrels. We use, like the beginning of this passage, the idea of things being mind-wrought. We like the idea of creating our own reality. But we just tend to fill our minds with stuff. We have our notions of social justice that can lead to the very self-righteousness that will prevent that justice from ever coming about. We hate those that we oppose, and by hating, we'll never overcome, and we get caught up in the same struggle. I want you to think of a political tyrant or terrorist and listen again to these words. He insulted me, he hit me, beat me, robbed me. For those who brood on this, hostility is instilled. He insulted me, hit me, beat me, robbed me. For those who don't brood on this, hostility is stilled. Hostilities aren't stilled through hostility. Regardless, hostilities are stilled through non-hostility. This an unending truth. We keep on pushing. We keep on pushing. And we're always outward focused. And we need to look in. Better than 1,000 useless words is one useful word, hearing which one attains peace. Better than 1,000 useless verses is one useful verse, hearing which one attains peace. Better than reciting 100 meaningless verses is the reciting the one verse of Dhamma, hearing one that causes peace. Though one may conquer 1,000 times 1,000 men in battle, yet he indeed is the noblest victor who conquers himself. Self-conquest is far better than the conquest of others. Not even a god, an angel, Mara, or Brahma can turn into defeat the victory of a person who is self-subdued and ever restrained in conduct. Here we have Buddha speaking in the Hindu context, referring to Mara, the goddess of temptation, and Brahma, the creator god. And these cosmic forces, if they exist, have no power over the person who has self-control. We fill ourselves with thousands of verses. We do not restrict ourselves to the Bible. Today I read from Buddhist scripture. Some weeks I preach from the teachings of science. The world of ideas is our scripture. Yet all our study is vain if we cannot find one principle to guide our lives. We waste our lives trying to control the lives of others. We seek political solutions for our own unrest. When we venture into the world, we must be centered. In the words of Gandhi, we must be the change we want to see in the world. Unless we are willing to apply the standard of compassion and self-control to ourselves, our efforts to change the world will be fruitless. To believe that good will overcome evil, that requires a lot of faith, something that UUs are seldom accused of. We seldom reflect upon our personal piety. We enjoy the freedom from the rules. But if we cannot rule ourselves, our efforts will fail. We cannot prepare a banquet for the world if we are using dirty utensils. It's not until we clean our own kitchen that we are ready to feed the world. If we want our enemies destroyed, then we are unable to exercise compassion. But if we have boundless goodwill, perhaps it will spread down to the ends of the earth. As we read in our responsive reading, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outwards and unbounded. Let us cultivate that peace and goodwill in ourselves until peace and goodwill overflows and covers everything as snow covers the north woods. When we seek to end our own suffering, we need also to seek the end of the world's suffering. If we seek only the end of our own suffering, we are still attached to ourselves. We can only end our own suffering if we end the suffering of the world. The practice, ironically, of detaching from the world and wanting the whole world is the practice that will indeed save the whole world. This Buddhist form of universalism is outlined in the Chavalata Sutta. Monks, these four types of individuals are found to be existing in the world. Which four? The one who neither practices for his or her own benefit or for that of the others. The one who practices for the benefits of others, but not for his or her own. The one who practices for his or her own benefit, but not for that of others. And the one who practices for his or her own benefit and for that of the others. and that is the most supreme. And the passage goes on to say that the order in which they were read is the order in which he thinks that they are ranked. The first being the one who doesn't practice for themselves or for others. The person who just doesn't give it a thought, lives thoughtlessly. And then the next one he listed was the one that practices for others, but not for themselves. And I said, why is that one lower than the one who practices just for himself, but not for others? It seems more selfless to not practice for oneself, but practice for others. But then I got thinking, we've all met this person whose house is in such disarray that they feel the need to fix the world because turning to clean their own house is the most painful. And then there's the person who practices for themselves but not for others. And sometimes that's just where we are in life, that we need to find a way to be centered, love ourselves, or else what we have to offer the world is broken and tainted. The Christian adage, love your neighbor as you love yourself, falls totally apart if you don't really like yourself. Then you're bringing up all that gunk from inside and sharing it with the world. The best practice, the foremost, the most outstanding, and the highest and supreme is the one who practices for themselves and for others. Being able to do both. That sense of, what do I do to interfere with the concepts of this world as one and it's for all? What do I cling to? What fantasies, what myths, what beliefs do I say are so certain that prevent me from reaching out to the others? The sense of letting go of those things, of letting go of all the things we want and we crave, and a realization that it's just all here for us and for others. As Universalists, we cannot stop with accepting the forgiveness of ourselves. We must practice compassion not only for ourselves, but for others. May we bless and be blessed.